What is good, everybody? It is your boy Super Saiyan Cab back with another Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker Jutsu breakdown video for you guys today. We're going to be taking a look at both of the Susanoos that are in this game. There are two that are available for the range type, and they are both secret jutsus. Now, as I told you guys before, we are slowly going to make our way through the jutsus, and I will be switching up the classes constantly. The first two jutsu breakdowns were for attack class, the next two have been for range, the next two may be for defense, and then some heal ones after that. Like I said, we're just going to keep mixing up until we really get through all the jutsus for the most part. Now again, we're going to be taking a look at both of the Susanoos and really seeing which one is the better one to use online, and potentially which one can be better for certain different modes. As we have gone over before, certain jutsu are better in certain modes than others. But taking a look at the description of these moves first, as we always do, with the Inferno Style Susanoo, which is Sasuke, it says this jutsu uses Susanoo to fire Amaterasu's black flames that they have been after they have been transformed into an arrow shape. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically the same thing that actually happens in the anime. But when you take a look at the Totsuka Blade, on the other hand, this one says this technique summons Susanoo, who slashes out with the Totsuka Blade. As the slash happens, it creates a shockwave that moves forward and knocks back anyone it hits. That last part is something that's to keep in mind, because we will showcase that later on. But as you see, the power for Totsuka Blade is a 5 and the duration is a 1. While it is exactly the same for Inferno Style Susanoo Flame Control as well, the power is a 5 and the duration is a 1. Now those are all the basics of these moves. Now we're going to look at some actual footage of them and get into the real breakdown. Alright guys, getting this breakdown started between these two versions of the Susanoo. The first one we're going to take a look at is the Inferno Style Flame Control version, which is Sasuke's version of the Susanoo. Now, just like the description said, when you activate this jutsu, it immediately starts firing the flame control arrows. Now, one thing you want to take a look at, as I'm moving my camera around, the Susanoo is not really moving with me, it is moving wherever it wants to. You have absolutely zero control over the Susanoo after you activate this move. So literally, when you do activate this move, you might as well just sit back and enjoy the ride, because again, you cannot control what is going on with it. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at with this move is something that is very important, something a lot of people, have issue with, and that is the simple fact that you are wide open supposedly to a lot of people if you activate this in a spot where it doesn't hit your opponent and they press you immediately afterwards. A lot of people think you're left wide open, but as you see right there, after it finished, I was able to block. You are able to block and parry literally right away. So again, this move is not really bad in the sense, like a lot of people said that they hated it just for the simple fact that you're left wide open after using it. But as you see right here, you are not left wide open. All you got to do is really hold L2 when you activate it, because you can't control it anyways. But moving on to the Totsuka Blade, there's a couple things that we want to look at first right here. But the first thing we are going to take a look at is the initial strike. As you see, it is a very linear strike with the sword, sending that shockwave that does go flying, which we will take a more in-depth look at later. But another thing I want you guys to see is that when this jutsu activates, for some reason it does do some damage to the opponents around you. Now, I don't know how that exactly works, because when I've used it online, it doesn't really do that too often. But right here, as you guys saw, it did. I don't know again exactly how that works, because online it hasn't really worked that much for me. But one thing about this jutsu, as you guys also saw right there, I was able to block immediately after I activated it, which is very important as well. Now right here, we're going to take a look at that shockwave, and as you guys see, after the sword actually goes down, that shockwave travels a very far distance. It literally keeps on going until it exits the map, and anybody that gets hit by that shockwave will take regular damage like they got hit by the Susanoo up close. It is the same exact thing as far as damage goes, whether they get hit up close or not. So honestly, the Susanoo, the Totsuka Blade version of the Susanoo, is really not as bad as people think. One, people say it has no range because the sword swipe is so short. That is false. As you guys see, that shockwave continues on and can do the damage to your opponents, even though it's actually not the sword. It's just like the flames of the Susanoo continuing on and continuing to go. Again, that can do damage to your opponents. So the range is not bad at all. It literally goes until it exits the map. The second thing is, a lot of people complain about the simple fact that you are left wide open with the Susanoos. Now, as you guys saw with both Susanoos, not just the Totsuka Blade, you are able to guard after you activate it. So once you activate these moves, seeing how you cannot control them, just press L2. Literally, right when you activate it, go into the L2 and just press it right away, so you are ready to parry right when it deactivates and you are not left wide open like a lot of people had issue with. Now, when it comes to these two jutsus, as far as online play, guys, how you want to use these jutsus really want to be used in the sense to where you are unseen, where you are far from your opponent, backed up, and to where they do not see you for the most part, especially with Sasuke's, considering he shoots arrows. There's no sword strike or anything like that. With Sasuke's version, you definitely want to be backed up from your opponents to where they do not see you, be at a little bit of range, and catch them off guard with it, and you can definitely piece off a couple at a time. It definitely happened to me and Zenkai a couple times as far as it being used against us. We were fighting other people on their team, and then out of nowhere we just got hit with a flame arrow and we died. That is just due to the simple fact that that person used it correctly and caught us off guard where we were not paying attention to him but his teammates instead. So you definitely want to use Sasuke's version like that. You can also use Itachi's version like that as well, since it does travel a good distance. The only issue with it is the simple fact that it is so linear. So you can also use Itachi's up close with the sword to try and have that sword hit him as well, because excuse me, because again, it is very linear with that shockwave, but the shockwave does definitely travel a good distance. So Itachi's is more, can be used either up close or at a range in my opinion, but Sasuke's is definitely one that you want to use at a range. You do not want to use that move up close at all, because you really will not get any use from it. But all in all, man, when it comes to these two jutsus, I definitely would have to say that Sasuke's is better for multiple reasons. The first, I truly feel it is much more consistent than Itachi's and much easier to use as far as it actually landing and getting kills online than Itachi's is as well. But on the second part of it, you get 4 flame arrows with that one move. Those 4 flame arrows, one of them can almost one-shot a healer. It literally leaves the healer with a smidgen of health, like barely anything, if they get hit with full health. And you get 4 of those. So if you're going up against a team, and the team, every single person on their team is grouped up on a base or something of that nature, and all of their health are somewhat, you know, around 60-70%, they're basically all gonna die if they get hit by that arrow. The most people I've taken out at a time with the arrow is literally 4. So again, I really like Sasuke's over Itachi Susanoo for that simple reason right there. But the Totsuka Blade is still not a terrible move. The more I looked at it, yes, it is a bit harder to land than most ults in the game, but it does one-shot basically every single class if it does land. I believe it won't one-shot defense types, but the other 3 classes, I do believe it will one-shot them if it lands. It is just a much harder jutsu to land due to the fact that it is so linear, and that is why I like Sasuke's version more. But all in all, man, let me know your thoughts down below on everything I said in this video, if this video helped you out, and which version of the Susanoo do you guys like more between Itachi's and Sasuke. Let me know all that down below. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, as always, hope you have a good day. Peace, y'all.